for the brand new Gradebook, and this right here we talk about for an update right here, for Gradebook, and if we're going to be talking about for any freelance work or anything like that, or anything about reviews or anything like that, but on the other hand too, such as grading and as well as for financial aid, but we may warrant to where that a lot of times that I would include right here are like for like attendance and spelling and reading, and as well as for speech and writing, and then for like for start all over. And we may think as to where that the things that we may find on Gradebook as to where that there may be some classes that we may have had to retake at some point during the quarter. So usually that whenever they say per quarter, that one quarter that more likely could equal to about 4 or 5 weeks or so of a of the month, for that, semester, if it's going to be for school or anything like that. So we're like Warren to where, besides as to where that, the cost of it, but then on your hand, they talk about, for like the performance as well as, for GPA score. But you have right here, is a painting right here of me, of course, I'm sure I like mentioned from before, but then you have right here of like for attendance as well as for spelling, reading, and we may wonder to where that how do we handle that to where that like look at a great book and thinking about us to where that we had to redo something. So whenever we had to redo something, that how do we usually take that to whenever if we had to redo something? That there may be some students that may say that they feel very aggravated because they worked real hard, and that a few friends that they did know in that class that were able to move on to the next level just because that their scores were just a little bit higher, and then they were able to pass it, but then you were not. Either you were given the option to take it again, or that figure out something else, to work out something else to, or whatever major state that you want to work for. But on your hand, that we weren't to where that how we handle it to where there's a time to where that we had to redo something just to be able to graduate or just be able to move on to the next step, as to where anything else do with updates. And sometimes that some students that may get to where that whenever they do get behind, and whenever they are trying to figure out something, how to work something and being tested on something, and you want to be like all the other classmates, all the other school kids, and you want to go ahead and handle something no problem. Like I'll be able to handle this no problem. But sometimes I guess to just to be able to admit to where that while we're working on our work is knowing about for how it's handled. But on your hand, that one of those could be is like for attendance, as well as for that we may not be, not everybody may be the best speller and maybe best reader and maybe best person to make a speech about something, best writer. On your hand, that like Warren to where that yeah, but there is something about maybe this person that more likely they could be what you call like a what you call is like for good at presentation, as well as that they come to class and they do the best they can. And way I think about those I have right here is like with me though, and I keep thinking, like I mentioned before, is about like a brand new grade book. That whenever I, like anybody, if I say, yeah, a book, it's a book just for me, but it's something that contains, like you say, by anybody that maybe think about as to where besides maybe a bill or anything like that, a grade book that more likely contains information about them, and where it reads about for how well that they did in class, and then for turning in their assignment, as well as for whenever they are due to graduate, and then as well as for their interactions with all the other classmates, and a few other things as well. And we are like Warren to where that we may expect to see a few good things about the readings, as well as for the final score, as well as for how well the finals were came along. And think about is to where that one thing that we may think that we don't expect to see on a grade report, maybe because it could be due to the fact because that you were not turning in your notes, or you were writing down notes, but then you were not that anything that you were doing in class. It's like if it's going to be behaviors or anything like that. But one thing that of course I have been looking forward to is that a lot of the grade reports I've kept from over the years, they go from over 10 years ago, of course, but some of them that were not always A's and were not always B's, B plus or anything like that. Of course, they were between C plus and C minus. Some of them were D's, but maybe a few F's is for failed though. But some students that may weren't to where have we ever figured out as to where another meaning for like a for A for alternate alternate or something like that for the if you were to if your score were to be at between a 91 and a 97 or maybe a 98.38 or something like that, you're likely weren't to where that you could be qualified for maybe a lot of things. And but on your hand that you have right here is that if I could look at this back whenever I was young and just thinking about it to where that if it makes me feel proud to just knowing about that like a painting right here. And then with this painting right here, I can't guarantee that anybody that with this painting right here, if it could be used for anything that maybe I can do is like for any updates that anything that could be used maybe for your portfolio that you would be able to paint a picture of what I look like, and I'll be able to use it for like a for like an art ID or something like that. But anybody who may know how to visit my Behance page, they can maybe check that out and see if they can find any of my gradebook examples there. I would maybe do something like this like on Photoshop to where I would post a number of examples, and I don't have all these saved, so I know a few of these that I do that I don't save each and every one of them, and I guess you could say that that may have been pretty good if I could have, but I know that the files do add up to as well as to where that number of things that what you call just for fun or just for practice or for what's required, and but then on your hand too that knowing about is that the question goes by as to where that whenever I started that a lot of things that I did not know about and then I didn't understand quite a bit, and then what has been improving. So we're like warned to where that that a lot of my experience and a lot of my education more likely has slowly gradually improved. So there may be about maybe 30 or 40% measured to where that about 30 or 40% is required to show improvement, but then I may only see about maybe 10% of that. So think about as to where that that give it about maybe 60 more days and maybe 30 more days at the most. But on your hand that you have right here is like for the Gradebook right here, like with me, Matthew McGuire, and thinking about is like that you have a brand new release of a Gradebook, and anybody will likely say about after being out of school for 10 years and since about a year since you've been enrolled going taking online classes, and you're like Warren to where that really that nice to actually see something new come along, because on your hand that between the A, B, and C, and then knowing about for how far we can come, it's like along with our higher improvements for education. So anybody that may want to where maybe graduation day may come by next year 2017, and maybe by the year 2018 too, for summer 2018. But some students that may say that well if you can afford to continue on, is depend on how well you do too, and really is all that in the Gradebook also. But if we could think about it as to where that back in those days to where we want to check a book out from the library and like thinking about a book, have you ever thought about writing a book one of these days? I'm like, oh yeah, I thought about it, but then on your hand too, where do I begin? Maybe one of those could be it's like to talk a little bit about about the Gradebook, about a book that basically shows as to where it contains information about if you want to add anything about maybe your favorite hobby, and your for one of your favorite books, and then your favorite stories, about your journal. I'm like anybody probably say about anything that you write in your journal, and, especially that if anybody, I can encourage anybody that if it's going to be anything such as aggravation, I'm like knowing about if they pick the things that we want to use from our journal, using our Gradebook. But other than that, I talk about say for important reasons for improvement of education. It's like for happy learning. Other than that, thanks for watching. Make 25 and a brand new Gradebook. Like I saw an update. Thanks for watching.